Welcome everybody to the 2023 Drag Racing Sponsorship Summit. We have a pretty full house today. It's going to be pretty cool. This one was put together mostly by Megan Meyer. I have to say Megan did a great job assembling most of the panelists and even arranging for this cool set. Check it out. We are in the John Force Racing Museum. Thank you, Ashley, for arranging this. That was really cool. She's here helping out. And behind the scenes, again, we have Tammy, my wife, and George Hamill, who's running tech. So when anything goes wrong, you know whose fault it is. As you guys know, I like to jump right into it. So we're going to have 4 sessions. It's 3 hours. It's going to go pretty fast. The first session, all of our panelists are lined up, and it is Why Do Brands Sponsor? This session is going to be a good one because 4 big brands that are very involved in drag racing. We have NGK, we have K&N Filters, we have Permatex and Elite Motorsports, and we have some very experienced people on this call. So I think the combined panelists here have over a century of experience in racing and racing sponsorship. So hopefully we're going to walk away with some good information, teach you how to get sponsored and what brands want. So let's start. Jackie, are you on the call? Are you here? Jackie from NGK.
I am.
All right, right on.
Hi there.
Hey, good to see you again. Last time I saw you at the last sponsor summit.
Yes, thanks for having me back.
Hey, so the last time we talked, and first I'd like you to get into real quick, why does NGK sponsor? But before the last time we talked, you said something interesting. You're mentioning that NGK does not sell direct, you sell through retailers. So a large part of your program is partnering with the retailers and even using co-op funds that you can make available to racers. Can you explain that? Because I thought that was really good. I'd like to explain it to this audience as well.
Yeah, so we like we said, we sell the retailers sell our product, WDs, warehouse distributors sell our product, and we, through their buying power, they earn back a percentage of funds back that we use for NGK marketing. We call it marketing partnership funds. And what we found is that we were able to use those funds creatively to help sponsor racers, but then it's also a benefit to them. So we can drive. What I've found is it's very hard to, and what my bosses have tasked me to is like, okay, how do you translate this money that you are spending back to direct sales to NGK? And I can't, it's very hard for me to do that. But through this channel, if I give out, we use the money through those retailers or those warehouse distributors, we can drive the sales to them and then be able to measure it back. So we've been able to successfully use that money to help racing programs out. And our customers are happy, and then in turn we're happy, and it's a good partnership because we're seeing some of that payback as well as them. So their names are, we do something with their name on the car, our name in the car, or what have you. We do hospitality type events. It doesn't even have to be necessarily a sticker on a car. There's all kinds of possibilities, I guess, for programs to work like that.
Excellent. So by knowing that there are partnership funds and that you're working with a partner and the partner is your retailer, a driver, a brand ambassador that's represented, that represents NGK also in a way represents your partner. So if you're selling through AutoZone or Advanced, there you can represent both at the track. It's an interesting way to meet people, and that's why I liked it. That's why I wanted you to bring that up, because it's being partnered and sponsored by you could lead to more partnerships with the retailers.
Exactly. Yeah, it has for some of the people that we've worked with. I know for some of the dirt car racers, when that partnership ended with a certain retailer, they were able to pick up that retailer on their own. So they've been working with them directly, and then we were in turn working, on something else. So yeah, that you're just basically just a big networking concept, right? So yeah, I think it just works out for everybody.
Excellent. That's what I was thinking. And then so on that same note, Scott Woodruff, Woody, how are you? And I wanted to go to you because you spent, I think, 24 years with JEGS. Now you're with Elite Motorsports. You're a driver, a team owner, a racer, a sponsor, a fan. You cover the whole gamut here. So you see it from all perspectives. Do you also piece together sponsorships with partners? And does it work like that at Elite?
First off, thanks for having me. I think the biggest thing is to ask your partner or potential partner, what's important to them. What do you want to accomplish? Going back at my time at JEGS, being able to kind of make decisions by wearing different hats, kind of helped you answer some questions before I guess, you just you thought about it through somebody else's eyes. And I think that's important to do, to have a good program and a good step forward.
So when you're saying ask what they want, what if you haven't met them yet and you're still at that stage where you're reaching out to a new sponsor and you're trying to, at the end, the last session is going to be on networking and meeting sponsors. But if a driver's reaching out to Elite or in the past to JEGS and they thought that they were a good fit, how would they know what the brand's objectives are? Is there a way to know that, or do you just have to get someone on the line?
No, I think you can do a lot more research now online. I think most companies are rather vocal on what their initiatives are now, and what their objectives are. And I think if thank goodness for Google, because that makes our life a little bit easier than Encyclopedia Britannica, as I'm probably aging myself a little. But you can learn a lot about somebody in this day and age before you ever talk to them.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And then let's head over to K&N Filters. You also, Steve Williams, you've been in racing a long time, a lifetime it seems, and now your daughter's getting involved. So it's going to be even longer. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm a lucky dad. She didn't take the juniors, but now that we're in stock and super stock, so I got a little bit of overtime.
Nice.
With my daughter. But yeah, I think some of it, first of all, thanks for having me. I enjoy the summit and look forward to a good discussion. But I think echoing when I think about, our program and what we executed here. I mean, I've been at K&N now almost 29 years. And for a long period of time, we developed the sports marketing program along with Tony Yorkman and a couple other individuals. And I think we modeled it off of a very grassroots. And the reason is that the mavens when we talk about mavens, they influence behaviors. And so the best advice I could give is you've got to be able to influence behaviors, which create sales for whatever company it is you're targeting. And I would tell you that mavens are really a precursor. They're the early version of what is now known as social media influencers. So what do I mean by that? When I first started racing, I had 25 different sponsorships because I couldn't afford to go racing. And most of them were between $3,000 and $5,000. So when you added them all up, it ended up way back in the 80s. I was sponsored for over $100,000 and using other people's money to promote those core products. Companies like Crane Cams, Edelbrock, all the different parts that I used inside of my engine. Mm-hmm. And then I built motors for other people and promoted those companies and promoted sales. So, why do we sponsor? I would tell you that our program was all based upon being able to influence consumer behaviors and actually drive, I think Jacqueline was talking about, a creative way to drive revenue back to the company. And then bouncing off of Woody, let me tell you, there's no substitute for whoever your target are. Whoever that target is, you need to learn about that company. There's bios available. Get a hold of other people that used to work there, find people, relationships, reach out, study the company, find out what they're trying to achieve. There's nothing more impressive than when somebody shows up, instead of just asking for money, that they actually know and understand the brand, they know the company, they know the products that it makes. And then the last thing is products in use. Authenticity is a word that we developed inside of our marketing program, which is if they weren't using our products and we couldn't use our products inside of that racing, then we weren't sponsored. Right, so consequently, NHRA, when I started, there were literally hardly anyone was using air filters to protect their engines. And now 80% of the cars running down the racetrack have air filters. Formula One has air filters. NASCAR has. Every racing understands the importance of keeping the dirt outside of the engine, not just out of the oil. So right off the top of my head, I'd say those are the reasons why we sponsor.
That's actually a really good point. If you're not using the product, it's kind of hard to represent it legitimately in a way that, you know, the
Yeah,
fans
it's not
and
the only, I
spectators
mean,
trust.
clearly there's a lot of consumer products that, you know, I mean, you don't use Tide on your race star. Maybe I do because, you know, it was pretty dirty down in Phoenix, but I'm saying it doesn't have to be in use, but for K&N and the business that I worked through,
Yeah.
it was very important to have products in use.
Right on. Well, I'm impressed by the quantity of sponsors you had back in the 80s, and we're going to come back and I'm going to ask, how did you get those sponsors? But before I do that, let's introduce Eric Seibold from ITW Permatex. Eric, are you there?
I am. It's good
There
to
he
see
is.
you again, Alex, and great to be here. So first of all, I'd say to anyone who gets the replay and wants to watch it, watch again what Steve just said, because I echo everything he said. And when he talks about from the business perspective of you know, driving revenue and influencing consumer behavior, we believe at Permatex, and I personally believe that the way to do that is to create meaningful connections with the audience.
Mhm.
So that's really why we're sponsoring, right? And we could advertise all day long. We could put every one of our dollars in advertising, and we could promote plenty of awareness, but it doesn't show, as Steve was talking about, it doesn't show the product in use. And it doesn't come off as authentic, and it doesn't meaningfully connect with the audience. So when I get sponsorship decks, everyone's always trying to sell me on themselves. And maybe they put in a little about their schedule and the number of people showing up, but they don't often show me enough about how they connect with the audience. And that's what we're looking at. So specific to drag racing, the reason we like drag racing is because I'd say about 60% of our end users are professional mechanics. About 40% are heavy do-it-yourselfers. We have demographic information that says the professional mechanic is at the drag races. They have their own car, that's where they go for the weekend, or they work on a buddy's car, or they're on a professional team working on the weekends with the team. So if we want to meaningfully connect with our core end user, that's where they are.
Yes. And now, are you speaking just on behalf of Permatex, or why don't you go into all the other brands by ITW, just for those who don't know all the different product lines that you have, which are the relevant ones in racing?
Yeah, so ITW is Illinois Tool Works. We're a large corporation. We have 84 divisions total. We're a Fortune 200 company. But our platform that I'm in, which is about 5 of those divisions, is automotive aftermarket. And we have Slime, the tire repair products, Rain-X, Black Magic, Gum Out, Fast Orange, Permatex. So, I mean, I can probably only speak specifically to like Permatex and Fast Orange because those are the ones I work on. But I would say that, you know, in general, my comments about why brands sponsor would translate out across everyone. Everyone's interested in connecting in a meaningful way with that end audience.
Right on. Right on. Thanks. Jackie, I was going to ask, I know that NGK is known primarily for spark plugs, or at least back in the day. I've been using NGK spark plugs on my motorcycles forever, but now there's ignitions and coils. And are all of the products at NGK relevant to motorsports? And do you market through motorsports and brand ambassadors and drivers for all your products, or is it just the plugs?
Yeah, and so I kind of follow suit with like what K&N was saying about, you know, authentically using products. So for drag racing, I primarily spark plugs will get people in like Pro Mod or what have you using O2 sensors, which is great because then we're able to showcase our NTK sensor brand. But we do make coils, we do make race wires, we do make all kinds of technical sensors. So if there's ever a chance for me to be able to plug that in somewhere in a motorsport setting, I try to do it. Because to have multiple products, especially with spark plugs and ignition coils, because we feel like when you're using our plugs, you should be using our coils. In certain situations, like certain types of motorsports, that's we're able to do that, just not really in drag racing so much, but mostly oxygen sensors and plugs.
Okay.
In that setting.
And then Woody, with Elite, Jegs obviously is, when you were there for almost a quarter of a century, they have a lot of products in those stores. Elite is a little more focused. Tell us more about why you use racing to promote Elite Motorsports and what the racers, drivers, brand ambassadors can do that's different from just you running ads in magazines and buying commercials on television. Why motorsports?
Yeah, I mean, our core, the core business at Elite Motorsports is, high quality used trailers for the motorsports world, so, that's a lot for a lot of people. That's a big purchase, and you gotta have a lot of trust in somebody. And,
usually the biggest
they're going to
purchase,
see out. What's that?
The biggest purchase. Usually.
For some people, it definitely is. Yes. And big is in size normally as well. So, obviously you want to make sure that person's really comfortable. And I think that if you're, at the end of the day, you need to be where your customers are. You need to be where your customers are passionate. If they're out there racing, you need to be out there racing with them. You need to be where the emotion is and not just be a pop-up ad. You need to be a little bit more than that. It needs to be personal. So,
well, I'd like to ask everybody, I'm going to go to Steve next, but I'd like to ask everybody, just think about this. What does a sponsorship look like from your company? Steve, you've been in racing a long time and you've been sponsored and you also sponsor. So you've probably seen many different types: cash, product, in-kind, marketing sponsorships. Are all your sponsorships $1 million sponsorships, or are a lot of them marketing sponsorships where either you or K&N can help with media for drivers that are your brand ambassadors?
Yeah, it's all over the map. And in our heyday, which I think our biggest year was 2018, we had over 200 sports marketing sponsorships across, and it was, I think it was one of the best programs. I love the Lucas program, love Jegs, and I think we were all kind of, really taking advantage of the fact that we had a lot of influencers that were really, part of the company. These were really, really solid relationships, but they included everything. At one time we had, I think more like what Jacqueline was talking about, which is product sponsorships, where we had close to 800 product sponsorships where it was no cash. It was all about products, which is really kind of where I started back in the day. Even though I was getting paid cash, it was basically I was buying at Master WD and then selling the products that I was building engines for. And then that was what was helping me finance. But I also became a pretty good customer, some of the larger companies. But then again, there are some forms of racing, and especially in NHRA, where when we were really heavily involved in pro stock, it was always, it was cash in products, but at the same time sponsoring a horsepower challenge. So I think it was all over. It was really about the reach and the ability of the racer to influence and who they were within the community. Right. So local heroes, whether it's, 8 Mile drag strips, down the bottom of Texas or out in the east or the south or up north, it doesn't matter. Local heroes, mostly product sponsorships, maybe a little bit of cash, depending on how successful they were. And then on the bigger stage, then it's, it moves up into where actual cash. And then, on the largest stages, we've had everything from professional NHRA relationships with Warren Johnson and other professionals, and then all across NASCAR, and even in Formula One. And so I think at that point, you really have to look at it differently, which is, how are they driving eyes on brand? It's not just about products. When you start, getting up over $100,000 in sponsorship, up to, even a 7-figure sponsorship, it's going to have a lot of influence, because, the ownership of the business is going to ask you, what is the return on that investment, right? So a return on the investment of a local hero is a lot easier to get than a $500,000 sponsorship, right? That makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. And then Eric, let's go to Permatex. What does a sponsorship typically look like? And do you calculate ROI?
We've been all over the map as well. We've been from like exclusively, let's do grassroots, just really small, maybe a little cash and product and spread ourselves as wide as we can. And then we've said, hey, that doesn't get us what we want, or we can't track it that well. So let's just do a couple of really big sponsorships. Now we're somewhere in the middle. I would say, meaning that we have 1 or 2 big programs that we work each year. And those programs, the drivers in particular, and you know, they work with marketing firms, and they have they're putting out content for us constantly, and then we're leveraging that content on our YouTube channel and on our Instagram. We're reposting everything, so we view it you know, almost like we've brought on an employee and they are sort of the hired talent, right? So the driving of the car is almost, and this is a dangerous thing to say, but it's almost what we care least about. Is, you know, obviously at some point you've got to perform and you've got to win, but it's almost what we care least about. That's what we leverage the least, I would say. We're really leveraging the content they're giving us and the connection. But on a grassroots level, if you're trying to get in the door with us and we don't know you, we don't have some special connection, it's kind of always going to start with product, and then we build a relationship, and hopefully then we start to integrate it into a little cash. But you know, someone showing up that we're not familiar with is never going to kind of get a 6-figure deal from us. It's just kind of the way we work.
And that makes sense. You gotta walk before you run. They want to get to know you before they start investing in you. I'm assuming that's the same with all the brands. Let me go to Woody again real quick. Woody, what does a typical sponsorship look like at Elite? Because you have pretty high dollar products. So I doubt that you can be giving all of your brand ambassadors product. There must be some kind of a discount program, I'm assuming, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, really, you know, really our focus is on our internal racing, you know.
Okay.
To really use that, you know, probably similar to the same way that we went about it with Coughlin Brothers Racing, which was the racing entity of JEGS. That, you know, at the end of the day, you know, JEGS supported a lot of special programs with the idea being not to really try not to single out anybody outside of the Kenny Wallaces and a Kevin Harvick from time to time, or different situations that would pop up that seemed like a win-win-win. You know, somehow we would always kind of make those things happen. But for the most part, you know, we kind of stuck with what we could have the most control over, and kind of, you know, that kind of tends to be the way a family business works, and Elite Motorsports is obviously a family business as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's stay with you for a second. How do you select your teams? Let's say there's some racers on the call or watching the recording who are interested in getting sponsored by Elite. What would be their first step to get your attention? What's your selection process? And I'm going to ask all the panelists the same thing.
Well, I think you need to demonstrate what makes you different from anybody else.
That's good.
You also need to demonstrate how you're going to achieve a rate of return, and also let's see some past successes that you've had. You know, let's talk about what you've done. Let's see, you know, even if it's something like Steve said, you know, the local stuff is the you know, it's kind of like a slot machine, or I would say it's like penny slots or dollar slots or $100 slots. You know, it's all a percentage game, you know. So, you know, if you're making 10 times on your penny, you know, that's a little bit easier to do than 10 times on your 100 in the slot machine. But I guess if you stick around long enough, it's going to work. But at least that's what they say. So, But I think really at the end of the day, you just gotta, I've some of the best proposals and pitches I've ever received were from some youngster that has the passion, that has the go-kart, that has the junior dragster, that just wants a little help, and we've all been in that situation, but there's some of those that it's the right thing to do, and you do it because it's kind of part of your brand.
I like that. You're going to get a lot of calls after this, so get ready. Here it comes. We're going to post your cell phone and your email address. It's thanks. I think that's really good insight. Jackie, let's go to you. What NGK? How do you select teams to represent you? And if a driver on this call is interested in being sponsored by any brand, not just NGK, what advice do you have for that driver?
I would say, don't send me a deck in an email. I would say try to schedule time with me. We're at a lot of races. Honestly, the most memorable conversations that I have are just people that come up, introduce themselves. We can get a report. I don't like the hard sales right away. Actually, it's a turnoff, right? When they're coming up to you and like, can you sponsor me? My gold, silver, bronze sponsorship. I just rather have a conversation. I just like, hey, check me out. This is what I'm doing. Can I follow up with you in a month? I think a lot of people get caught up with wanting to get an answer right away. Can you make a decision on me in 1 minute? That's probably, I'm like the Eric, we're not going to probably make a decision like to give somebody thousands of dollars after one call. And everything's different. So we do product, and a lot of times we do roll out a product sponsorship just to get going, to kind of get the feels out. But it is like a job interview, right? You're coming to me, you're coming to our team. We're trying to see if this is going to work out. What could you offer? Is it, obviously we want something more than throwing a sticker on a car. We're like, these are our problems. How can you help us with that? How can you, help us on social media? How can you develop content for X subject? And those are the best conversations. And then those usually translate from, product to money in most cases. So, like I said, just come be yourself, not do the hard sell, just let us get to know you. And then, it always will progress from there.
And then to get from product to money, and Eric, I'm going to go to you next, but let's stay with Jackie for a second. To get from product to money, how long does that usually take? Or does it depend on the performance of the team that's representing you?
Yeah, usually they start with product, unless there's we've developed some kind of relationship. But we start with that, usually just to make sure they're using the product. And luckily for us, a lot of people come to us, they're already using the product. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them I've already known in the industry, and we've been watching them, or they've, kept in touch. So probably like a year, try them with product for a year. And then after that, and then after that, trying to develop something. So like every one of our sponsorships are different. Not everyone does the same thing. So, depending on who you are, they're fulfilling a need that we have for one of the, like if it's Shop Squad, if it's NTK sensors, if it's plugs. And that's what I like about it, because then there's all kinds of different things going on. Everyone's not doing the same thing.
Yeah, so, and then Eric, yourself, how about Permatex ITW? How long does it go from product? What's the typical duration? Is it a season or two? Season, like in Jackie's case? What can a racer expect if they start approaching you now and get a relationship started, if they are looking for money in the long run?
I wish, whether it's selecting teams or how do you get from product to money, I wish I could give you a really good answer to that. There's a very clear path and it follows this set process each time, but it really is very different. It's about the relationship, but I would say, and what I mean by about the relationship is, we had someone I'm thinking of this year who I was really kind of pushing to get from product to money, right? And then at the last minute, it really like January, we had our final budgets came in and they had been cut and we kind of couldn't do it. But that person in particular, like kind of constantly keeps in touch with me via email or whatever it may be, text. So like, I'm aware they're out there. There's a relationship going. And I would say several people do that with me who are good and understand that they're in a long-term game. They're, and that it's kind of like not just a sprint for this season. It's kind of something they're looking to build a program. And that's something I look for, right? Who's out there like looking to build a program? Who's hungry enough to build a program?
That makes sense. So you and I have had a relationship for a while. I've known you a long time, and you're talking about how long it takes. How long did it take to grow that beard? I'm really curious because that is very impressive.
This as you know, because you knew me pre-beard. This is 3 years now.
Baby face. Just so you know, he has a baby face.
This was a COVID beard. So yeah, three years like this month, and it's still here. I don't know. It's become a part of me. This
is also almost 3 years. I'm not kidding. I'm German. I have no face hair. So let's head over to Steve for a second. Steve, same thing. Is like, how long does it take on average? You have probably the most race teams of the panelists on this call, at least through the years. And I've worked very closely with Tony, and I know that Tony and I was with Team Lucas, obviously. K&M was a huge partner, so I saw many of those teams. How long does it take to get from a product sponsorship to a dollar sponsorship? Because ultimately, I know that a lot of racers are looking for dollars. And then what do you look for in looking for new teams? You're muted. Muted.
Sorry about that. I'll try to hit on a few things that, Jacqueline and Eric and Woody already hit on. But I would tell you that, first of all, I think it's very important to learn the timing. When do sponsorships start? It's very important not to try to aggressively go after even a product sponsorship or in dollars when all of those are already set. Budgets are already set. It's very difficult to bring on a new relationship. So one of the first questions I would ask any target, for whether it's for product or money, is when do you guys really bring in, what's a good time to talk to you about, right? And it's not PRI. It's like, when do you develop what next year's looks like, right? So that's the first thing I would say. And then I think it was Eric and both Jack, look, get started on any level. What I did is really what Tony and I modeled at K&N, which is develop a relationship with the company and then over deliver. If you can get a certain amount of money in product, then promote that company. Have it be the forefront. When you're at the races, make a difference, right? It's not always just about winning. I totally agree. I don't want a deck. I know there are plenty of racers that we've had that do win, but in reality, it's really about how do they actually promote at the track? Is there, are they engaging with the fans? I will tell you, some of the greatest events we've had in the Horsepower Challenge was all about bringing family and their kids in and embracing them at the track and getting them involved with those sponsorships. I mean, one time it was so dang hot, we had coloring books out and we had people just come in and we fed them water and had air conditioning and let their kids color. It's like, we got letters for months afterwards thanking us. So it's really about engaging the fans. Are you willing to go to that level for that and promote that brand and become an ambassador for their brand, right? And I would tell you that it's about a relationship and creating an emotional attachment. If you are looking for a sponsorship, you want to be somebody that they can't do without. You want whoever's inside that company to go, man, we didn't really pay them that much money, but I cannot believe the way and how hard they work to help us accomplish. Be somebody that over delivers, right? And then when you make that step to money, they're going to take it serious. They're going to look at it and go, I'm giving them $5,000 worth of product, but man, what could they do if I was paying them $25,000 a year to really promote my brand, right? If you can make that change. And then I will tell you the last thing, there's two things. First of all, not all marketing departments are created equal. There's not a time when there's 20 people working at a company. There were times when Tony and I and a couple other people were handling all those relationships and it was all hands on deck. Be somebody that shows up and gets content delivered in a way that it can immediately get out. Give them a turnkey opportunity to promote their brand. Do the work for them, because a lot of times we're understaffed. And then the other thing I would tell you, which we've all had relationships, and when you get a sponsorship, at some point it's going to end. Be a professional. If there was one thing I could tell everybody here, learn how to gracefully move on to another sponsorship, because you know what? We listen and we hear from other racers when it goes south. Yes. So take the high road, appreciate what they did for you during that period of time. Realize that their budgets change. Realize that the timing change. Ownership of the company changes. All these dynamics happen. A lot of times they may still want to keep that relationship, but they can't afford it. It's not part of their budget. Take the high road, because you know what? Your next sponsor is going to be, man, I remembered when they were sponsored by so-and-so, and what a class act they were. So that'd be the last thing I tell you.
And then one thing Tony Yorkman used to always say is, know what my plan is. I have a plan, and I'll sponsor you if you know my plan and fit into that plan. So you're right on there when you're saying, understand what the brand wants, and the budgets might change, the plan might change. Perhaps they're no longer targeting that specific area where you are marketing. And when you do move from product to dollars, I think a lot of companies will make that transition because they're viewing you more as an employee, an extension of their marketing arm. So they're now paying you as an employee, and they trust that you know what that brand wants, so that they don't mind giving you the money that you can spend it, as opposed to they're giving you money to put a sticker on a car or a helmet or a race suit. That's not the reason why they're giving you money.
Tony was really good. And I'm not just, I enjoyed working with him the years we had working together, but he was really good when he got me to sponsor a lawnmower racer. Okay. And I will tell you,
that's right.
It was unbelievable. They did an outstanding job. If somebody can come to a company that most of the time is in all kinds of other motorsports, and actually find a way to promote our brand, K&N brand, through racing lawnmowers, I just tell you what, that's pretty impressive. And it impressed me. So there's a lot of creative ways. I think somebody earlier, Eric, said it. Find your own way to set yourself apart and deliver, and then over deliver. And then you'll stand out for people that are just, to Jacqueline's point, handing you a deck and asking you want silver, gold, or bronze. Right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Thanks, Steve. Let's go to Jackie again for a second. So lawnmower racing, lawnmowers need spark plugs. Does that sound interesting? What would a lawnmower racer have to do to get?
We might have one of those. We might. I know we do tractor pulling. We do all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
For sure.
Nice. Steve was saying
even
emotional attachment, that if there's an emotional attachment to the brands and the racer and the team. Do you also see that? Is it more family values?
Yep. And I feel like we've been pretty lucky, because there is a lot of emotional attachment to NGK. Just like what you said, people have been using it for years. Their dads used it, so-and-so turned them onto it. So a lot of our teams do a great job of, promoting the brand, and then also, turning people onto it. Like, hey, they're using a competitor brand. Hey, you want to try these? And they give them the spark plugs. Hey, take a set of mine and try them and let me know if you like them. So we've been incredibly lucky in that regard with teams, and loyalty and being passionate about the product.
Yeah, it's true. I've been using the plug since I've been riding late 70s, early 80s. And so, when my kids ask me what kind of spark plug, I just go with what I know works. So we only have about four to 5 minutes left on this. It's going to go fast, but George says that there's a question. We're going to address that real quick.
Yeah. So actually, Megan Meyer asked this question. She says, how important is audience data in your decision making?
Jackie, since you're up, why don't you go first? How important are audience data?
For us, pretty important. I know that when we're looking at folks to sponsor, we do look at demographics. And since we are trying to skew towards more of the younger demographic, the 18 to 30-year-olds, that's a big deal. So we are looking to see where they're influencing people, and for social, asking them for, what their audience looks like. it's not the same for everybody, and it's not to say that we're only targeting that group, but it is something that we look at for sure.
Right on. And then I'm assuming, Woody, let's go to you because you probably have the largest and most expensive product out there. Audience data has got to be critical, at least disposable income for your audience, right?
Correct. Again, I think it just goes back to the passion thing, you know. That's, I know that sounds kind of basic, but it's a purchase that doesn't come up all the time,
Right.
So you just, a lot of times you can, as a marketer, you don't know when somebody's going to make a purchasing decision. So if you can get your logo to be somebody's, think about it like a pixel, and you want to get it as bright as you can be in somebody's head. Well, Motorsports is perfect for that because it just embodies the 5 senses. So
okay,
if you can have your logo associated with something exciting and something that's passionate to a community, and you're part of that community,
that makes sense.
Kind of go the inside track.
All right, since you're here, why don't we go around real quick, and I'm gonna ask one last question. Are there any last advice, tips, tricks, words of advice that you have for racers on the call looking for sponsors that we didn't address or cover? We'll go Woody, Eric, Steve, and then end on Jackie. So Woody, I'll start with you.
I would say number one, don't make any assumptions. Number two, ask what is important, what's most important to them. And then, when you get the person to talk, ask them, how do you visualize this success, this program being a success? When you think of this program, what do you see in your head? And it just kind of helps you to address any unknowns and kind of get so that you're on the same wavelength with whoever you're dealing with.
That's like good life advice too. All right, Eric.
Yeah, so I think the last advice I would give, and this sort of ties into the audience data question too, is to really find out what's unique about you and leverage that with us. So like for audience data, if you're copying and pasting a demographic information from your series and the schedule, what you're telling me is I can hit all those same people by calling the series director and putting up signs at the track. You're not really giving me anything individual. We worked with Jay Blake at Follow a Dream Racing for like 10 years, or more. And he really carved out a niche with veterans. So, and we knew then that we could really connect with veterans, and we were, so like, what's your niche? Who's your audience? Not just the audience that's at the race, but who's your audience?
Yeah, that's a good point. I like
that's
that.
a specific thing I'd say that where racers could differentiate themselves from others.
That's a good point. I'm assuming, Steve, it's probably the same with you. I bet you parallel a lot of that. Steve, what are your last words of advice?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to use the word clever. I find a clever way, and I definitely off of both what Woody and Eric said, but what I think actually really works is whatever form of racing, since we're talking about drag racing, whatever class it is, think about that sponsor and try to envision a way to create some kind of level of excitement with that particular company in a way that not everybody else is doing. And I'll give you an example. I had a couple of young girls contact me years ago about sponsorship for junior dragsters. And they asked me if I would sponsor a burnout contest that they were having in their local town. And it wasn't much money. It was about $500. And I said, look, if you guys will go there and put up K&N banners and really make it look like a K&N show, go ahead and sponsor you. And I'll tell you what, they sent me turnkey videos. There were banners everywhere. The announcer kept talking about K&N and had all these cars doing a burnout. Well, the next thing you know, we ended up sponsoring them in junior dragsters. So it was a unique way to create a connection to where they did something different in their local town to create some real visibility to a small core group of consumers. And for me, it was impressive. And so we ended up moving into an actual dollar sponsorship.
That's a great example because
be creative.
I like that example because it's their way to introduce their sport to you. You probably wouldn't have looked at it or noticed them had they not.
If they'd have just sent me a
Dipped their toes
deck,
in the
and
water.
it would never gone
Yeah, that's excellent. I like that. All right, we'll close on Jackie. Jackie, any last words of advice?
Man, like I agree with a lot of things that you guys have said so far, but I kind of am going with you know, do what you're good at. Don't do what
Nice.
X racer is good at, or this racer, or he's doing this or doing that. Think about what you're good at, and then ask me the question, what do you guys need from me, and figure out how you could use your talent, whether that's making TikTok videos or doing social posts on Instagram or whatever, and then how can we make that work? But I'm really interested in what you're good at, not trying to do like what everybody else is doing, because then that makes you unique, and that makes you, I feel there's more passion in getting that done. And overall just a better experience. So that's what I would say.
You know what? That's actually, thank you for that. That's a perfect segue to our next session and the next presenter, the panelist, because we're going to be pulling up Megan Meyer now, who is really good at social media, and she's fantastic, and she represents NGK. So thank you. Thank you all four of you for this. I think that's some great information. Hopefully we'll see a lot more sponsored racers after this call.